my memory is pretty bad. I can't really remember what I had for lunch yesterday. I'm simply terrible with the names of people I've just met, and I'd likely lose my head if it wasn't screwed on. But despite all that, I can remember that day last October when we wrote the samples for the first time, like a video playing in my mind. Ruben and I think, both grew up on a diet of downhill racing and all that culture surrounding it, so it was probably inevitable that we'd develop a downhill bike together at some point. And with us having a soft spot for Champéry and its wild World Cup track, it gave our development a clearer focus than I think three wise men trying to follow a star. Yeah, there's not really much messing around on that hillside. If you think you've mastered one section of trail, then it opens up this whole new door of speed and intensity for the next section that then puts you straight back at square one. So with all that, it was never really a question that we would ride the downhill bike first anywhere else. It can be a pretty scary ride if you're timid and asking questions, so we decided to just jump aboard the good ship, reckless abandon, and send it first try. Riding a bike like that, really throwing it in at the deep end, is for me the best way to figure out if you've got something to work with or if you're going to have some problems that you've got to fix pretty quick. After just 3 runs, the bike was already feeling so comfy and familiar that I decided to light the afterburners and see what the bike would say in response. We landed at halfway down the World Cup track and I was a little bit speechless, a little bit shocked. It felt like we'd done it and we'd injected that RAAW DNA into the bike. Yeah, I'm not sure any RAAW bike has a fuck to give, let alone a bag to put them in. Like, you push the bike and it rewards you and kind of eggs you on to push it further. So you get into this weird one-up game, but the bike will never let you down. It's always got you back. And for me, that's the signature of a RAAW bike. Yeah, the rest of the day was just spent laughing and giggling like a schoolboy. Like, the colours in the forest were amazing, the track conditions were perfect, and we just kept getting that repeated hit of the drug that is Champéry. Yeah, that's going to be a day that I remember for a long time to come. Not long after, we were in discussion with 555 Gravity Racing. While not World Cup racers ourselves, we felt we had something pretty damn capable and also easy to work on and durable. It was a quick turnaround, and by the end of February, we found ourselves down in Lusa in Portugal. We were meeting the team for the first time and also getting everyone set up on the bikes. Yeah, Lourdes in France was the first World Cup in March, and while we did feel a little bit like it was our first day at secondary school, surrounded by all these big teams and big budgets, it was a really good feeling to be down there and participating rather than just reading about it secondhand. Lourdes was also the beginning of learning. While we'd done the development and we'd ridden the bike ourselves, it was back to square one and trying to learn that bike, racer, terrain, conditions conundrum that is held together or actually falls apart sometimes with the huge psychological part of racing. We call it a roller coaster for a reason. The highs are euphoric and the lows are pretty crushing, and everybody involved actually gets on the ride and buckles up. Downhill's hard. We made a whole damn video about just how hard it is. But when those highs come, they are pretty unforgettable and they get ingrained in your grey matter for a long time. And Fort William, which was only our second World Cup, was one of those times. Years ago, when Ruben and I were kind of early on in the development of this bike and talking about ideas, the thought of what it would be like to have a RAAW DH bike on the live stream popped up. I think we took a second to imagine that, what would it be like, and then kind of quickly filed it under probably never going to happen, but maybe it kind of was there in the back of our minds all the time. Up at the top of the mountain with Francis, that's Luke's dad, we were both kind of hunched over watching a little timing on a screen. It's kind of a weird juxtaposition because you've got the relative tranquility at the top of a mountain while Luke was heading off down the mountain in this whole wild scenario. Francis and I both had to do quite a big double take as we came to realize that Luke had just qualified 16th. Maybe he doesn't know, but he actually made 2 guys' dreams come true. But also on top of that, he gave us the biggest stamp of approval that we did actually have a capable race bike. Luke went on to finish 23rd, which I still can't believe. Not that I doubt him as a racer, not at all. It's just that it still hasn't sunk in. Ryan went on to finish 51st in his first Elite World Cup as well, and the whole team did us so proud. And it was so cool to put our little creation up against like the world's best and it come out swinging. Throughout the season's ups and downs, we saw that the RAAW DNA was pretty damn ingrained in the bike. While it's not the weight of one, it is built like a tank. And so we only really broke a couple of derailleur hangers, and most of the team actually rode on the same frame for the whole season. They only really swapped out at the World Champs in Leger or the final round in Val di Sole. I think we might have actually forgotten that each rider had 2 frames, because the first frames they built up just kept soldiering on and on and on through the season. And as the season's racing came to a close, Luke actually wrapped it up with a win in the final round of the British National Series and even wrapped up the overall. The whole team in its entirety has done us so proud. They've exposed the RAAW brand to so many people in the UK and around the world, and they've been great ambassadors while doing it. So what's next? Well, we're off racing again next year with some new additions to the RAAW racing family, but more importantly, the downhill bike is going to go on sale in the first couple of months of 2023. It'll be available for purchase right away, and it'll be shipped out within a couple of weeks, so that will give you plenty of time to get it ready for the upcoming race or bike park season. With that then, we can dive into some of the details about the bike and answer so many of the questions that we've been receiving throughout the year. The frame's going to be available in 3 sizes, M, L and XL, and they're all designed around 29-inch wheels front and back. In the middle, the reach numbers go from 455 through 480 all the way up to 505mm, mimicking somewhat that of the Madonna. It also means that if you're riding an L jib or L Madonna, you're also going to likely be on the same size for the downhill bike. We also continue our love for low bottom bracket heights, with it sitting 343mm from the ground. BB height will change a little bit with the tyre and fork setup that you've got, but we can't get away from that feeling of the drop in the bike and its ability to stabilize while also making the bike turn with confidence and purpose. Out back, the chainstays grow as the front of the bike does, but it's the range that changes. This ties into our quest for a balanced feel no matter what frame size you're on, while also giving you the adjustability to change the ride feel or suit the bike to different types of tracks. This idea of adjustability to suit rider, terrain and conditions is our toolbox concept, and it goes all the way through the bike. The chainstay has 3 positions. The BB height also has 3 positions, while also having 3 positions for the suspension, which changes the leverage ratios and the progression. And up front, you can also adjust the head angle and also the reach of the frame. So we do have a lot of adjustments, but they're not just there for adjustment's sake. The mid settings of each range were really scrutinized though to be striking a good balance of ride feel, suspension or geometry. The adjustments then add on the ability to be either a little bit more or a little bit less than that mid setting. If tinkering around that much isn't up your street, then absolutely no worries. The mid settings in every range are going to work like a dream. But if you do like to tinker, either to learn new things or adapt the bike to your conditions, you as a rider or the track, then you're going to have all the tools that you'll ever need, while never losing out on our philosophy of durable and easy to work on. So it's been 1 year of learning, of riding, and yeah, the whole downhill project as a whole. And now it's really cool because all of that is going into this final product that is now available for you to buy, but more importantly, just go and ride. The downhill project learning curve at times felt pretty damn vertical, but now it's been over a year of learning with racing, with us riding it, and we've come full circle to put all that downhill project together and finally release it out to the public so that you guys can buy it and go and ride it for yourselves.